Hi, I'm Jamie Miller, and you may know me from my blog on Substack called Reasonable Arguments. Joining election night coverage are my co hosts, Jennifer Bash, my beautiful bride, children's book author and entrepreneur, and Chad Turnbull, CEO of Savoorian Wine Importers, and a delegate to the Republican National Convention. But we're going to jump right into it. We have tonight Evan Power, from chairman of the Republican Party of Florida, on our coming in with Zoom. He's joining us directly from the War Room at Palm Beach County Convention Center. Evan Power is the chairman of the Republican Party of Florida, and as polls are going to close in the Eastern Time Zone at 7 p.m., the Republican Party seems to have an insurmountable lead going into Election Day. I wrote in my blog that I did a conservative estimate, Jennifer, of every which way Kamala Harris could possibly win Florida, and as close as I could come was 6.5 points. That was using 82% turnout, and hopefully Evan will kind of have some insights on what he expects turnout to be, and I tend to think that we're probably going to have a lower turnout, 77, 78%, and with that, Trump's lead's going to grow. So we have one congressional seat in Florida, in Pinellas County, that Democrats have their eyes on. Anna Paula Luna. You actually had dinner with Anna Paula Luna one night.
I did.
And
I'm sure she doesn't remember me.
No.
She might.
She may. Well, you made an impression on everybody else at the table.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, so that was great. And do we have Evan?
I'm here.
Hey, Evan.
Hey, Evan.
There he is. We got him.
The man of the hour.
The man in the war room. How are you doing? What are you feeling like tonight? Are you in Palm Beach?
I'm in Palm Beach. It feels great. We're looking at, you're talking about turnout numbers. So I'll tell you right now, currently, Republicans have turned out 84.5% of our electorate,
Wow.
which is uncharted territory for us. We have a 1.2 million vote lead, and growing. And I think we're in a great place to be successful tonight.
Yeah, so, I brought up Anna Paula Luna. That's the one congressional seat it seems like Democrats are after here in Florida. What's the mood on the ground there in Pinellas County?
I think she's going to be in a great shape. I think she's going to win comfortably. The turnout has just been phenomenal there, too. I think that when you go beyond the congressional races, we've been done extremely well in Miami-Dade County for their first set of constitutional officers. So we're probably going to have Republican constitutional officers in Miami-Dade County. And keep your eye on Miami-Dade and Palm Beach, two states that have not gone Republican in a presidential since 1988. And I think we should watch those tonight.
Well, and Ron DeSantis kind of set the stage for that. Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, and Broward counties, three of the most Democrat areas in the country, some of the most diverse areas in the country. Ron DeSantis won those three counties for the first time in my lifetime by 5,000 votes. Is it possible that Trump wins all three? He certainly doesn't win Broward, right? And probably loses those three combined by a little bit.
I don't know about Broward. What I will tell you is Broward's turnout numbers are under what they were in 2020, which shows the level of enthusiasm the Democrats have by not turning out there. But I think we're gonna do extremely well in Miami and Palm Beach.
So I've written also that there's three stages of supporting Kamala Harris: excitement, relief, and regret. And the excitement when she was first, kind of threw Biden over the edge. The relief, she even said this during the debate, that it was, she was running, she wasn't Joe Biden, she wasn't Donald Trump, and everybody really kind of had a sigh of relief. And now I think election night is here. And so what's your prediction? Do Democrats regret tonight or tomorrow having her as the nominee, or do the rest of us regret it for 4 years?
I'm very confident on what's happening around the country. You're seeing a lot of the rural areas turning out like we're turning out in Florida. So, I think there was excitement because anyone would be excited compared to Joe Biden. But beyond that, I think people have come to, I think CNN was doom scrolling earlier on the fact that they didn't think Kamala had enough time to introduce herself to the country. because of her late addition to the race. But the fact is that I think that people knew who she was, and that's the reason they're not voting for her. She did 4 years as vice president, obviously. And then if you really look at it, I think people there's a reason she didn't make it to Iowa in the presidential race, because once you get to know her, you don't like her.
Yeah, Chad and Jennifer, I know we're at the Republican National Convention. I've been at several. You were the chairman of, I think, certainly the best convention I've ever attended, probably the best state delegation convention of Milwaukee's convention this year. And so what do you guys have for the chairman?
I think Evan, hey, it's Chad. I think we talked about 10%. You think Florida can get 10%? That was the goal as the state party, to get 10%. And if we did, I want to pat you on the back if we get to 10% winning. What are your thoughts on, is that achievable?
Yeah, with our 1.2 million vote lead, if we hold those MPAs, I think we're going to get there. I think it's going to be a big night for President Trump. And I will say, I don't like to give out predictions before it happens. Jamie knows that. But I will say this.
It's not going to keep
I
you
have
from
one
trying,
prediction.
Chairman.
I will consistently have said this. I believe Rick Scott will win his first race by over 1%.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's trending towards, what, a 4 or 5 point win if Trump is at 10. Jennifer, what questions do you have for the chairman?
I mean, I just want to know how you guys are feeling, and what is the feeling over there? Is it just, we're winning this and let's be excited now? What is it? What's the feel? I mean, I know the RNC was, after everything happened with the assassination attempt, and everybody was kumbaya, and, it was just such a great atmosphere. What is it like there?
We're feeling the same kind of, it's almost like an RNC atmosphere again. People are extremely excited. I think there is a nervousness that exists just because you worry about Pennsylvania, you worry about Wisconsin, you worry about some of the things that have gone on in the past. And I will say the leadership of the RNC right now under Chairman Whatley and Co-Chair Trump, we're in a much better place to combat that. If you look at the lawsuits we're doing, we've been winning them also. We're keeping an eye on the election integrity ball, and I think that moves the needle also. But everyone's cautiously optimistic, but there's a lot of excitement because you're seeing what's happening in Florida. You're seeing it in some of the counties in the rural areas of some of these states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. And I think that people just want change.
Yeah, do you have a county in Florida? Let's say you're in Pennsylvania. Jennifer's from Pittsburgh. A lot of people are watching us from Western Pennsylvania. Is there a county, since Florida is going to have returns here on the East Coast in 7:10? I don't think Florida gets called nationally until after 8 when the Central Time Zone counties close. But is there a county that you recommend that our folks in Pennsylvania look at and say, hey, if we're doing really well here, it kind of emulates this county in Pennsylvania, and you can kind of look at the results and kind of read tea leaves from there? Do you have some suggestions for them?
I would look at Duval, because I think that it's always been, Duval County has always voted left of Georgia and some of the other states that go up in North Carolina, Pennsylvania. And we are winning by turnout right now. If we win Duval by a decent number, I think that translates, one, into Georgia, but it also translates into a lot of the rural areas in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin.
I agree with you. I think it's not that we have to win Duval. If we win Duval at all, I think that it is probably indicative of a good night for President Trump. One of my counties, of course, is Sumter. That's my home county, and where the home of the Village is, and you can kind of look and see where retirees are headed there. And Trump really has to build his numbers there, doesn't he?
He does. I mean, Sumter is a quintessential county for us. It is the county that is growing rapidly, and it's registering more Republicans than anywhere else because people are coming from, these states that we're talking about. They're coming from Pennsylvania, they're coming from Wisconsin, they're coming from some of the Rust Belt states and moving to the Villages, and because the TV commercials, I guess. But they're moving there and they're voting Republican, and it's continuing to grow in its Republican turnout.
So I didn't think we would have more than 1 million vote margin just in turnout. Chad has a question.
Oh, no. Chairman, is there, inside the war room, is there another state that maybe you have your eye on? Jamie and I and Jennifer, we've been kicking around. If we do well in New Hampshire or Iowa, those are not really on the radar, they're not on the swing. But if those results come in, is there other states that you guys are kind of kicking around where if you think we do really well, that it's definitely going to be a good night? What is the thumbs up if a result comes in that you think like, oh boy, it's going to be a good night?
Yeah, I think Virginia is clearly one of those places we're looking at. I think there's been serious movement in New Hampshire, and it's off the radar. It's the only state or it's the only territory I can talk about. But if you look at the results in Guam today, it voted 11 points for Biden. They closed at +3 for Kamala Harris today, and the Republicans made big inroads and I think may have retaken the House in Guam. So you're looking at these numbers and you're seeing some of this shift. And if we're seeing those shifts in places like Guam, I think we're probably going to see them, we'll see them in Virginia, we'll see New Hampshire. Those numbers will be indicative of what we do when we move into the other time zones. And I don't think I think we can if we run the East Coast, we don't really need to worry that much about the West Coast. I think Arizona's in great shape. And I think that in Nevada, we are doing extremely well. So I'm positive on what we're doing out there. So I think the key right here is to watch Virginia, New Hampshire, and then hope that the Pennsylvania numbers prove kind of decisive quickly.
Well, I know you read my blog, Evan, Reasonable Arguments, and thank you for that, because I wrote just that about 10 days ago, that Nevada is turning red. You can count on it. Trump's winning Nevada by about 3.5 points. I agree with you. Arizona is going to go well. Georgia is going to go well. And certainly under your leadership, Florida is going to go well tonight. Hopefully, it would be incredible. I never thought we would see this, Chad, a 10-point win in a presidential race. As you know, I'm a veteran of the 2000 election, and .000 like 537 votes out of 6 million, whatever that equates to. But it's a lot of
Jimmy,
zeros.
My
after
first
the
name
decimal.
is Chad, so you know how many jokes I've got by Secretary Harris about hanging Chad.
Yeah, right.
Here in Sarasota, so I
that's
feel your
great.
pain. So
Evan, I know you're busy tonight, so do you have any closing remarks before we have to let you go? But you're welcome to stay as long as you want, but I want to be respectful of your time.
No, I first of all, I want to say thank you for everything that you've done. I read your blog. Yes, you do. You said nice things about me in the past, so I appreciate that. But if you look at what we've achieved in Florida, I'm impressed. We have a great team. Our county leadership is exceptional. I just got a text from Franklin County where our Secretary of RPOF, Christy Banks, is. They have 93% Republican turnout in Franklin County.
That's incredible.
And that's indicative of what we're doing. We've built a great team. And I think the sky's the limit. I think we're just getting started. And I think Nikki Fried was appropriate to change her logo to a panther because Democrats in Florida are definitely an endangered species after tonight.
Well, I've not been kind to the Florida Democratic Party chair, not because I know her or dislike her, but because she's incompetent. I felt like from June when she decided she was going to run unqualified Democrats, and Chad, I use this word very lightly. I don't call anybody unqualified, but if we just say they're unqualified by not living in the district, she decided to file Democrats against every Republican. So we had Republican legislative candidates out there talking about local issues, turning out Republican voters. And I hope we keep the supermajority. It's a little tougher in a presidential year. But Nikki Fried, I felt like, took Florida off the table a little bit back in June when she decided to go with this crazy strategy instead of trying to be focused in her intent. But
well, I hope she continues serving as the chair of the Democratic Party in perpetuity. I endorse her reelection. I'll go out there.
We have an endorsement. We have news here tonight, folks. It didn't take us long. We have an endorsement of Nikki Fried from Evan Power for reelection for Florida Democratic Party chair. Listen to that, ladies and gentlemen.
breaking news.
Yeah, it's on fire.
But to your point, Jamie, is there's a candidate who's running for the Senate in Miami who lives literally 3 miles from my house in Tallahassee.
Right.
I mean, is that real? All they did was stir up our turnout machine, and I think it helped us. So I think to your point is you have every legislator running that turnout operation, which only helps the team.
Yeah, and tell me if I'm wrong. I certainly am willing to accept that. But, are we, they did that to try to make us spend money here in Florida, and it ended up saving Trump tens of millions of dollars and Rick Scott tens of millions of dollars from the Senate committee. that was able to be spent in places like Ohio and Michigan to try to win the U.S. Senate back.
Absolutely. And that's a great point, too. And Evan, I appreciate that, too, is when we save $1 here in Florida, we know we're going to get 10 points. That's $1 that goes to Ohio. That's $1 that goes to Pennsylvania. That's $1 that goes to possibly Texas, although that's a problem over there. But this is the money we save by having our party, our state party, and our chairman. We're unified. We're the #1 delegation in this country. We're the #1 delegation at that convention. And hopefully next convention we'll be right up there in front because we're the best.
Well, and to your point, the saving of the money, in 2020 in Florida, we had over 200 staffers in the field paid for by the RNC. Do you know how many they're paying now? I think 1.
Wow.
We paid some field staffers out of our own RPOF coffers, but we've been able to save the RNC tons of money by taking Florida out of play. We're a tier 2 state. But what we've done, and I'll give credit to my executive director, Bill Helmick, and my political director, Alex Pantanakis, is we built a plan, we executed that plan, and with a limited budget and limited time, because I came in on a little short notice.
Absolutely.
And we've been able to take a tier 2 state and get it to perform like it has been invested in millions and millions of dollars like it has been in the past.
I agree with you. And if we start winning some of these other U.S. Senate races, I certainly hope you get the credit you deserve. They're certainly going to hear about it here on this podcast and in my blog for the credit that you deserve for making Florida a safe Republican state and safe for freedom like you have and our friendship has over the last 20 years. So thank you so much for joining us. And like I said, you're welcome to stay as long as you want, but I want to be respectful.
No, I got to go down and watch the 7 o'clock closing because, in Florida, we report fast. We don't count for days.
I know. It is quick. We're going to get some results really fast here. We're ready for them. We're ready to report them. And thank you for your service, sir. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you all.
Take care.
Thanks, Evan.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Evan.
Hey, that was Evan Power. That was the chairman of the Republican Party of Florida. People getting an inside view right from the Palm Beach County Convention Center. We jumped right out of the gate and behind the scenes.
He had a big old smile on his face too, so I don't know if that's indicative of what's going on on there, but
certainly
that
indicative
is
of what's going on in Florida.
Amazing.
I mean,
yeah.
It does feel great being a Floridian Republican, right? We are the #1 best party right now. If you think about it, used to be Texas maybe 20 years ago. Right now, we're it.
Yeah, it wasn't Texas 20, maybe 30 years ago. 20 years ago, I was executive director, and we were the best in the state, the best in the country. So
but
I'm
really,
never going to give that up, Chad.
Let's just keep our title, man. We're the king of the Republican Party. You can't beat us.
Yeah, it's crazy, and he's right. Nikki Fried made colossal mistakes, and Evan became chairman just this January. Usually, you have a full 2-year run up. And there were a few issues there at the Republican Party of Florida. Evan had to go in and clean house, and it was just an incredible leadership shown on his part. I didn't get finished interview.
Yeah, let's tell everybody why we're here.
Yeah, I did. So we had to jump right in. Evan kind of came in a little hot on us. So we appreciate everybody joining us tonight. And if you're just joining us, you just missed Evan Power with the Republican Party of Florida chairman, and he's going to be a national superstar by the end of tonight. Tonight we have, I'll get back to Jennifer Bash, my beautiful bride, and Chad Turnbull, CEO and Republican National Convention delegate. And so our show tonight, we don't plan on it being conventional. First of all, Jennifer and Chad, this is our first podcast ever, and we thought, well, what the heck?
Let's get the chairman.
Let's go live for 4 hours.
Yeah. Let's just go live with some.
We'll
sit here for 4 hours and talk, and maybe somebody will watch. Hopefully, you will. But it is,
and especially me being not political.
It is ambitious. It is ambitious. So what we hope to do is do exactly what we did there with Evan, is give everybody a peek behind the curtain, and we're going to continue to do that all night long. We have somebody coming directly from the Fox News election desk who's going to share some insights later tonight from America's news station, what it's like to be behind the scenes right there in the middle of election night coverage. Now, I don't want you to forget that we'll answer your questions during this, won't we, Jennifer?
Yes,
so Jennifer,
absolutely.
Our producers, everybody's keeping track of your questions. Put them in the comments, like things, put your questions in comments, and we will try to answer them. And if we don't, we will answer all questions. I swear I will I will answer every single question on our Facebook page, Reasonable Arguments Podcast. If you haven't liked that, go ahead and like it. So we're going to give you commentary tonight that they're not going to see anybody anywhere else. We're going to talk about whether there.
But I think we need to. I think we need to say that it's not just for Florida. We're going to be talking about other states
we're
and
definitely
other counties and things like that.
We're definitely talking, because the one thing I haven't shared is we're going to have podcasters. I was kind of, just thought, well, I'll do my part, right? And I'll try to get on podcasts. Maybe I'll get on half a dozen or something this election cycle. I was on a 42 podcasts between the RNC convention. In fact, my very first podcast I did was with David and Miguel from Milwaukee. And they are the podcasters for Americans by Choice. So they're in California. They're going to come and be part of our show later tonight. Later tonight. And so we're going to have somebody come in from Texas, give us an update on the U.S. Senate race there. We have somebody from Kansas. We have somebody from D.C. So we're touching a lot of bases here. People are going to see get a lot of information. We have a lot of information on the U.S. Senate race, U.S. House, of course. The presidential race, right? That's why everybody's watching.
Before you get into your intro, you mentioned Texas. Is one thing that we need to jot down is, have you been hearing any of the chatter out in Texas? It seems that Senator Cruz is a little bit ornery.
Well, that's possible.
What happened?
Well, with the podcasters from Texas give us some insight, but definitely he does not seem happy with the former leadership with Mitch McConnell. So there was some quotes coming out, so I'd love to dive into that.
Well, I'm supporting Rick Scott for leader of the Republican caucus in the U.S. Senate. I hope we win the majority, and that leader is Rick Scott. He was such a great governor
If it's not, that's a big
U.S.
scandal.
Senator. I mean, as you know, I mean, when these hurricanes come, he's here for us. He gets us what we need, and he did that as governor as well. So. So some of the things we're going to look at is whether there's polling bias. Some of the things I think we're going to see is was there polling bias, response bias from women, showing Kamala Harris up 20 points among women. I've seen a lot of polls. They all seem to have her in that 18 to 20 range. But if that really is 13 or 14%, Katie, this thing's over if she's only up by 30. And you have to remember, Hillary was up 11, right? So in 2016. I think there's so much support from men that there's a couple extra points that we can give away there. Will rural counties show up? In 2016, they showed up strong for Trump. In 2020, they didn't. If you look around the country in places like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, those numbers, the margin got much closer. So we're going to look at some rural counties. And folks, what we've done is we've picked out some counties that traditionally in places like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, that they report at their county level almost immediately. So we're going to give you some ideas real quick tonight. We're going to end at 10, we think, but we're going to try to get you some information that you'll have so that you can look and say, okay, this is where Trump actually stands compared to where he was in 2016 and 2020. Of course, we know all election results will not come in tonight. And so Jennifer, I kind of fell off a ledge there a little bit, right?
Imagine that.
So we're going to talk about you two for a little bit. We have 10 minutes before our next guest.
Okay.
And so Jennifer, you were a first-time voter in 2016.
I was.
And why don't you tell everybody kind of what kept you from voting and why'd you decide to vote in 2016?
So I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in a small township about 15 minutes out of Pittsburgh, and it was a Democrat township. First, let me say that I came from a family that never talked politics. We never discussed it. And really, I don't remember even growing up talking about politics, right? But living in this township, my stepfather worked for the township, and he was not a Democrat. And I remember watching as, he worked for the township for over 30 years. And after they would have their meetings, they would all go out somewhere, and he was never invited. And I just remember, just thinking just how horrible that is, because anybody who knows my stepfather knows what a wonderful man he is. So, for them to treat someone like that, that is so good, just really hurt my spirits, right? It gives you that, not trusting.
You don't want to be involved.
You don't want to be involved. You don't know, it's a trusting thing. So, I moved out of that township, stayed in Pittsburgh, still never voted. And when I came down here, came down to Florida, so it was 2016. It was the year I turned 45, and Trump was running for president. And I can just remember sitting there, and I plead complete ignorance to politics. I didn't really know much about it. And but I remember sitting there watching the debate or whatever it was, and watching Hillary, and it made my skin crawl just watching a polished, purposely born, raised politician. And, Trump, for everything that he is to me, being a Pittsburgh girl and saying things how it is, that is what I most appreciated from him, is that I knew no matter what, whether it was good, bad, or ugly, we were getting the truth, whether we liked it or not, whatever it was. So, yeah, I voted for him my first time. And, I laugh now when I see this, women voting for Kamala just because she's a woman. It's just crazy to think that, because whatever Trump said, or, how he harasses women or whatever it may be, the rape charge that was out there, I had guy friends my whole life, and they have done some really stupid stuff in their life. And I've seen them not necessarily be nice to women all the time. And, I don't think that that's a reason to say, it's not a popularity contest. We are hiring, we are giving this person a job to run our country. And I think that's what people are not thinking about when it comes to this election. They are turned off by his personality, and because Kamala is a woman, and that's why they're now, voting for prom queen.
And now you're
instead
married
of
to a political genius. What's that like? No, I'm kidding. Chad. So
I think Jed's kicking him under the table right now. I was going to bring a red card and a yellow card, but I think what we're going to do is just, okay, you got one.
That wasn't even the notes.
One demerit.
Yeah, a warning here. So
Chad.
And that's why they're voting for a woman.
So Chad, this is your first time going to a Republican National Convention.
Yes.
Give people a little idea of, number one, what motivated you. Number two, what did you expect? And number three, how did it meet or exceed those expectations?
Well, let's start with just the convention. And if I can tell anybody that has the opportunity to go to a national convention, especially the Republican National Convention, it's an honor to sit on the floor and be one of 2,000 people casting your vote for the future president of the United States, for your party that you've grown up on. That was like, I didn't care. That's something I wanted to do. I was very privileged to do it. My good buddy Mike Holderness and I out of Sarasota, we both were first-time people, and we didn't get involved in local politics, but of course I know a ton about politics. But just going to the convention and meeting all the good people, if you are a Republican and you want a little boost, or if you want to know why you're a Republican, just go around and talk to everybody. It's funny, Evan talked about the people from Guam. Well, Guam was over my left shoulder, and let me tell you, they had wonderful outfits. They were very upbeat.
Now, some people, they coordinate their outfits for convention. Did Guam do that?
Guam had their outfits. I think Florida needs to up their outfits a little bit. I think next time,
Texas, the one year we did the Turnpike shirts, like the ones you see with the Turnpike people wear.
I think just flip-flops and maybe some board shorts. Let's keep it loose. We're Florida.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's just be honest with ourselves. But what time is our next guest? Do we have a couple minutes?
We do have a few minutes, unless he's in the waiting room.
He is live.
Let's bring him in then.
Okay.
That's fine. Yep.
Yeah.
Bring him on.
Yeah. our next guest is Michael Holderness, who you just
I
mentioned.
I
What a
didn't know
great
he was the next
segue!
guest.
A great segue for Michael
flip-flops.
Holderness,
Yeah.
and Michael Holderness also a first
Look
time.
at that picture.
Look at that picture.
Look at that delegate
I
badge.
wonder who took that picture.
First time delegate to the Republican National Convention, a longtime Sarasotan, a guy who's joining us tonight, even though his business been beat the heck and gone from 2 hurricanes out at Beachside Management. And so, Michael, are you
Is it in the closet? Where is it?
Are you going to Halloween? What's going on there?
He got his teeth whitening. I can tell that. I see
Oh,
where
wait, we can't hear him.
He's on mute.
He's
You're
on
on-
mute.
You're on mute.
You're
Hold
on
on
mute,
one second.
So Mike is also the owner of Big Tiki Hut in Siesta Key, which got slammed by back-to-back hurricanes, and we felt bad. He must have had about 8 feet of sand over there, and as soon as he cleaned it out, the next storm came. So Mike needs his shoulder rubs. I feel bad for him. He's a small business owner, long-time Florida man, and just a great human being. He was a big pleasure. I spent 3 days with the man, got to know him very intimately, and his girlfriend. And I couldn't speak more highly of him. So if we need anybody in politics or anybody that needs to get involved, it's Mike Holderness.
And if he's still working on the mute situation, the Big Tiki, I don't know if you've been there, but I'm going to give a plug for that because it is what's the singer who's so great there we love to go listen to.
Oh, Casey on the Key.
Casey on the Key is
Absolutely.
there. She's a regular. Go out and see Casey on the Key, have a nice cocktail, and it's really one of the best Siesta Key. I think it's the best Siesta Key Village experience, and you might even run into the famous Michael Holderness,
I
which
know.
we're going to hear from any second.
It'd be great too if Mike maybe sponsored maybe an upcoming election party, or maybe we have a politician at the Big Tiki. We do an event there. Maybe we can twist his arm if there's anybody coming up in the next 2 years that might be running for an office.
Yeah.
Let's hold a party at the Big Tiki Hut. Let's keep it loose. Let's keep it Florida.
Yeah.
When Mike gets on there, Mike, what do you think about doing an event at the Big Tiki Hut for one of your politicians that you think might win or that you like to sponsor?
I think I heard him say yes.
Is Mike there?
There he is.
He's still muted.
He's back.
Well,
Is he muted on his phone?
He's muted on his phone.
Michael, if you can hear us, you're muted on your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he can.
yep.
Oh, he's unable to? Okay.
Well,
All right. Well, Michael, we're glad we got to see you.
it was a great tour of. So,
I'll tell you, his tie looked great. You don't see him in one of those very often.
I didn't even know you owned one. So,
Well,
so
did you even see him in a tie at the National
I think you borrowed
Convention?
one of mine. So
Yeah. So what we might do now is look at Nate Silver's from the polling. I think we have a little polling folder that we have some stuff in that might come up.
Can I have the.
And Nate Silver's final predictions of swing states. And we are about 19 minutes away from polls closing in Florida. So that should be.
Which one are we looking at?
So I will tell you, Jamie, you were asking me more or less how I got involved in politics.
Okay.
So throughout the years, when I was 18, I don't know if you remember George Pataki.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so
Governor
I got
of New York.
involved. Yep, when I was trying to find out my role in there. So, but George Pataki, and then I moved on to Elizabeth Dole, her campaign. So there was a whole bunch of things going on, and then I moved out west in 2000 to Arizona State and got involved in local politics out there. So, are we going on to Nate?
Yeah.
No,
So-
I want Chad to finish his story. Go ahead.
It's
No, we're good.
good.
No, go ahead, finish your story. I'm interested.
I'm fine. I was just,
Okay.
Okay. We've got time. So, so one of the things we wanted to talk about, are we going to be able to put that graphic up on?
Oh,
We have the poll closing graphic up, so you can kind of see polls closing in Florida. Is that graph up on the
No,
screen?
that's what we're seeing.
It is. Okay, so the poll closings on the screen. Is the other one on the screen? The Nate Silver one? That's in the polling folder. So at 7 o'clock, we'll start getting some election results. But until then, we have Nate Silver writes the Silver Bulletin on Substack. He is a Democrat, but I do like he's a guy who's like the numbers are the numbers. He's a former model. He modeled the elections for the New York Times, and so you can see his final predictions. And I think one of the things that you want to look at when you're looking at this, I look at the trends of where votes are going, and that's that final column on the right, where you say the change from last month. Or change from last week. I don't know that I trust the last week numbers as much as I do over the last month numbers, but when you start looking at these swing states, you look at Florida has 6.4, Democrat plus, I guess it says 0.1 there in Florida over the last week. I think that's a pipe dream. Texas is trending Republican and towards a 7-point win. What jumps out from you there, Chad? I mean, we talked about Iowa a little bit.
No, I mean, I think the thing that's most important here, especially in the polling, is if the GOP wins Pennsylvania, it's more or less checkmate. There's very few paths that the Democrats can get. And looking at this change from last month being plus 2.3, and with the Democrats being only margin is 0.8, that's super encouraging. I mean, you win Pennsylvania, you get the 20 votes. I don't see anything happening. The only problem is you're not going to know what's happening in Pennsylvania until maybe 5 days from now, which is a travesty. The other thing that's encouraging, if you look at that, is North Carolina. You just go down the list. You look at North Carolina. If the southern half of North Carolina, the Wilmington area, the Brunswick area, with all the new voters out there, all the new people also. I mean, one thing that I'm also a researcher, so one thing that I always look at is when they do these models, what are they taking in? And my feedback from my talking with a lot of people is the under 25 person, are they being accounted in these models? Because under 25, I mean, that could be 10% of the vote right there. But if they're not figuring out how to get to them or how to survey them in the proper technique, you have 1 or 2 percentage points right there. And that's where I like the red column. I like all the pluses. But historically, the Republican Party has always underpolled. And to be ahead so far right now or very close, if I was a Democrat looking at this, and this is a Democrat pollster, I would be super, super concerned. Super concerned.
So there was, as we led into the election, there's been a lot of talk about polling error, right? Of course, 2016, they showed a lot of polling error. 2020, polling error, like you said, they undercounted or underpolled Republican, or they weren't able to get through the clutter of asking the right questions to make sure they were delivering the results. And some of these numbers were incredibly, in some of these states, swing states, they were 5, 6, 7% different. They had, didn't we have some of those, some of those states where we showed the difference in the county. So we don't want to necessarily switch the thing on the. No, you're good. We don't want to necessarily want to switch it from the screen, but so Nate Silver's final forecast, if you add all those up, it would have given Trump a win of, I think, 282, 200, something like that, electoral
A win's
votes.
a win. A win is a win.
And I think you're right that New Hampshire probably comes into play, and we're going to see some things now.
But
Georgia,
states
Indiana,
like
Kentucky, South Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia are about to close.
But you got to remember, I mean, Jamie, I'm from the Northeast. So when I talk to my friends back in, let's say, New York, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and if you're a Republican, you're still being shamed in 2024. So I think people are just not going to say closet Trumpers or closet GOP, but they're just tired of being shot out. Like during COVID, that's why so many people moved out of the Northeast, because of just overreach, and everybody fled down there.
And you're one of them, right?
I am one of them. Proud Floridian. 4 years in the making. I made it 4 years to the national convention as a Floridian. I am a diehard Floridian. So sorry I didn't wear flip-flops today. But if you look at polling, and this is why I think we're here, and this is what you don't really hear on CNN, is they hide these facts that when I call it voter suppression, that they're making you think that, hey, and this is what happened in 2020, I think. I think we were overconfident in 2020 that we were going to win. Everything was happening. So a lot of misinformation came out. But if you're still afraid to say who you vote for in this country because you're going to get yelled at dinner parties, or the narrative is now shifting. Where I think the new generation, the people that had went to school during COVID, the people that have gone through wokeness, the people that are getting hit in the chest by a transgender volleyball player, I think these are the people that are saying, sorry.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point about those under the age of 25. You know, my sons are in their 30s, early to mid 30s, and you know they had 3 years. They've had 3 years only of a great American economy. Only 3 in their entire adult life. And so if you think, well, since they were out of college, 22, so in the last 10, 12 years, there's only been 3 years of a great American economy. That's under Trump. And when my sons look at it, I think they're kind of take it, well, the bag's half, you know, the glass is half full. And, you know, but another one takes it as the glass is half empty, right? And so one looks at it and says, you know, listen, I don't know that politics has anything to do with it. I don't care. I'm going to vote this way or that way. And the other is, you know, hey, we saw this good economy under Trump, and so that's where I'm going to go. But if you look at somebody who's 25 over the last 8 years, their entire life, right, their entire adult life, they've had 3 good years, and they know where it came from. They know exactly where it came from. It came from Donald Trump's economy, and that was because he reduced energy costs, he reduced regulations, and he took government out of our lives when and where he could, because we know that burden is a cost on every American. You know, those burdens are a cost on every American.
I would like to ask the audience, if anybody is maybe a first-time voter under 25, if you want to type in maybe a question or tell us why you voted for reasons, or did COVID affect you, or being under the tyranny of government where you couldn't go outside, or you had to wear a mask to go to the supermarket, or you weren't allowed to go to church. People forget that. They were closing synagogues and churches across the Northeast. You weren't allowed to go out there. And if you were only allowed certain amounts. How about gym ownerships? You weren't even allowed to use a gym. They closed how many businesses? So if you were 16 at the time, and now it's your first time that you can vote, if you're on there, by all means, just hit up Jennifer and we'll put you on air for 2 or 3 minutes. So